Okay, what's going on, everybody? We're here, we're alive. Hopefully, you can all hear and see me clearly. 5 minutes goes by fast. I swear I need to change that timer to about 10 minutes because I'm never on time. I'm never situated the way I want to be. But nonetheless, this is going to be a good show regardless. I'm a little late to the party with this particular stream and with this particular story concerning the $30 million that's been given to the AAPI community within the last 6 month period in New York City. And it's actually more than that. I just need to update the title and the thumbnail. I didn't get around to doing it yet, but it's actually now with the more updated information, they've given anywhere in between a total of 40 to $50 million, right? To the API community so far. But then when it comes to us, especially those of us in New York, what we get is jail. Instead of funding for the ills of our community in New York City, we get more police, we get more jail, we get more, what is it called? Stop and frisk. That's what Eric Adams wants to bring into the city. Let me pull that up in front of you right now. Now, I'm not going to read these particular articles, but I just want to pull this up so you know I'm not just talking out of my behind when I say this. Now, as you can see right here, we have the first article up, and it shows Eric Adams has a meeting with drill artists as he discusses with them kind of the reasons why he wanted to ban drill music. So, like I said, while the AAPI community is receiving money for whatever issues and problems that they have in their community, Eric Adams is delivering hip hop lectures to drill artists in New York. He's running around here calling himself the Biden of Brooklyn. As many of you all may remember that remark, he is the Biden of Brooklyn, which means that I'm going to send all you brothers to prison. And he also wants to bring back stop and frisk. Give me just a second, please, while I take a sip of this coconut water. So that's what he has in store for us while having an unlimited amount of money and an unlimited amount of funds for the AAPI community. Now, before we really dive deep into this, please make sure that you hit the like button and also make sure you share this video. My live streams tend not to perform as well as my uploads do. Primarily, I would assume that's because I'm not really a live streaming channel, so more people are used to the uploads. So because they don't perform as well, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please share this video on your social media outlets and also show your support to the channel. You can do so through CashApp, $tdhiphop. You could also join the Patreon. The Patreon link is pinned in the comment section. And you could also hit the join button that's next to the subscribe button as well. And you can show your love via super chat also. So now let's get into today's topic and what I want to discuss, right? Because like I was just saying, and it's like the third time I said it already, in total thus far, the AAPI in a community in New York in a 6-month period has received between 40 and $50 million to elevate their community. They've received around $20 to $30 million for the activist arm of their community for the purposes of building their people up. And they've received an additional $20 million for the purposes of actually building the infrastructure of their community, right? So they're making their communities a lot better while at the same time, or physically look a lot better while at the same time building their people up. So let's get into some of that because there's a reason why they're getting a lot of this money too. And a lot of it has to do with, especially on the activist side of things, it's an inflation of their hate crime incident numbers. Now, I want to say this also before I really get into it, okay? I'm not saying, and I do need to make this clear, I'm not saying that the AAPI community don't deserve any of this. That's never my position with these videos, if you've noticed. I never say that this group doesn't deserve this and this group doesn't deserve that. All I say, and my message is pretty clear over and over again with every video, is if the Democrats can continue to give an unlimited amount of financial resources to all of these other communities, why is it that when it comes to the Black community, they can't do it anymore? That's the purpose of this video, as well as all my other videos, right? And I need to make that point clear because a lot of people in other communities, they get salty when I make these videos. And it's not so much of that I care that they're getting salty when I make these videos, but I just like to be clear on things, okay? It's about making sure that our people that are running around here voting blue no matter who, strolling to the polls, pinky finger in the air, ski wee, right? I need them to understand that you consistently are voting for absolutely nothing while everybody else is getting everything they want and deserve, and you get zero. So let's get into the actual data, the money, the statistics, and all that good stuff right now. So let me pull up the screen back in front of you again, and let's really dive into this. And hopefully we can knock this out within the next 20, 25 minutes. We won't be here for too long. Okay. So now let me just change the screen over and let's go over some of this money. All right. So now what we have here is this article from ABC News, and it's titled New York Governor, I believe you pronounce her name, Hochul, gives $10 million to Asian American groups impacted by the illness. I still don't like to say that word I don't like saying that word, period, on YouTube. So let's go through some of this. New York State is giving $10 million to organizations that serve Asian American communities. Since the start of the illness, Asian Americans across the country have had to cope with discrimination and violence against their communities. The funding comes at a crucial time for organizations like the Asian American Federation, which have served as a safety net for many throughout the illness. People are not leaving their homes. There's tremendous anxiety, and we're just on edge all the time. Joanne Yo, the executive director of Asian American Federation, told ABC News. AAF is one of several organizations that will receive and distribute the funding. Now, here's the important part. According to Governor Kathy Hochul's office, this is the largest investment in the Asian American community in this state's history. I want to stop right there for a moment. Is there anybody else outside of myself that is noticing this trend of how since the beginning of this year, and even starting late last year, every time I put out a video, it's the largest investment that's been given to the Native American community. It's the largest investment that's been given to the AAPI community. But you have yet to hear about the largest investment ever given to the Black community. You see how that works? I just wanted to point that out for you. All this year, hit the microphone, but all this year, we've been seeing these largest investments constantly for everybody else, but nothing for you, those of you who faithfully vote blue no matter who. So now let's carry on and let's get back into this article, okay? This news is a really big deal because nobody's ever invested money like this in our community, Yo said. This is the governor saying to our community, I heard you. I want to help you. I want to help you build infrastructure because your community needs it, right? Now, the Black community needs that as well, but what you're going to get once again is stop and frisk and more jail and more police, because Eric Adams is the Biden of Brooklyn. All right. Now let's carry on. The money given to AAF will be distributed to local groups that have seen a major increase in demand for programs concerning financial assistance, case management, mental health support, youth programming, and more. The illness has had a devastating effect on so many vulnerable and marginalized communities across New York State, Hochul said in Sunday's announcement. The Asian American community has especially been hard hit, not only by the illness, but by an increase in hate and violent crimes. Excuse me. Now, here's something else that's really important that I want us to remember, right? That I'm going to come back to. Hate crimes against Asians in New York City have risen about 361% since last year, from 28 to 129, according to the NYPD Hate Crime Review Panel. Here's the important part. Nationwide, a total of 10,370 hate crime incidents against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders persons were reported to Stop AAPI Hate from March 19th, 2020 to September 30th of 2021. I want you to remember that large number. 10,370 hate crime incidents, okay, have occurred throughout this country against Asian Americans. Remember that number, because we're going to come back to how these numbers get inflated. All right. And I want to thank you very much, Unapologetic Perspective, for your super chat. Your contributions are deeply appreciated. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now, I want to go into the next article very quickly before we come back to how that number's inflated. OK, now, the next article that I want to come to is this. And this is why I say that it's in between 40 and 50 million that the AAPI community will be receiving, because in this article that was released earlier this month, it states that amid anti-Asian hate crime spike, AAPI groups get 20 million from New York State. Here's the thing. If we're being honest and I'm being fair, I'm not sure if that's an additional 20 million on top of the 10 million, or if they just decided, hey, let's bump up and give them an extra 10 million on top of the 10 million we already got. So therefore it's 20 million. I don't know. I don't know if they added 20 on top of 10 or if they just added 10 on top of 10 and now it's 20, just to be fair. Okay. But regardless, the activist arm of the AAPI community in New York City is receiving $20 million. All right. Now let's get into this really quickly. Asian American groups are getting $20 million in the New York State budget to fight an alarming tide of hate crimes that has shaken local communities. The money in the $220 billion annual budget deal falls short of the amount Asian American and Pacific Islanders organizations had sought, but it doubles last year's funding. The Asian American community has never been properly accounted for in the state budget, State Senator John Lee told the Daily News Sunday. The need is unprecedented because everybody is painfully aware of the anti-Asian hate that has accommodated the illness, the Queens Democrat said. Complaints of anti-Asian hate crimes more than tripled from 2020 to 2021. And I'm going to keep saying, remember this concerning statistics, because I'm going to break all that down right after this article. According to NYPD stats, a trend that seems likely to continue in 2022. So far this year, the city has seen enormous, horrifying crimes targeting victims of Asian descent. And we're going to wrap this article up soon. Not all the incidents have been officially deemed hate crimes. I'm going to repeat that again. Not all the incidents have been officially deemed hate crimes, but they have caused fear and grief among AAPI communities. With the state funding, groups affiliated with the Asian American Federation Associate Coalition for Asian American Children and Families and others will teach self-defense classes, hold food and housing programs, and undertake additional efforts, Lee said. I'm going to read that one more time because I kind of feel like I kind of fumbled that up a little bit. I was trying to read too fast. So I'm going to read that one more time. With the state funding, groups affiliated with the Asian American Federation Associate, Coalition for Asian American Children and Families and others will teach self-defense classes, hold food and housing programs, and undertake additional efforts, Lee said. Although the groups asked the state for $64.5 million, Asian American Federation Associate Director Ravi Reddy said they welcomed the smaller sum. The state budget this year has taken important steps to help our community in this crisis, Reddy said in a statement. Here's the important part. Here's the important part. In the future, Liu, I believe that's how you say Liu, Liu said he wants the state to make an ongoing commitment to AAPI organizations. So they want this 20 million to be ongoing, and they want more than that, because originally, like I just read, they asked for 64 million and they got 20 million. Now they're satisfied with the 20 million, but hey, we need this on a regular basis, Playboy. Okay, run me that money. This needs the needs are not one time, he said. Part of what has made the Asian American community vulnerable to attacks in the first place is that there's very little infrastructure to support members of the community in their ongoing insecurities. All right. Now, like I said, I want to come back to these numbers that we see here. Hate incidents are spiking. They're going up triple, threefold, fourfold, fivefold. You're seeing 10,370 hate crime incidents across the country. Where is that number coming from? And I ask that because what most people do when they hear that 10,370 number of hate incidents against Asian Americans, you typically automatically associate that with hate crimes. Your mind kind of defaults to that. And that's what my mind did. My mind defaulted immediately to hate crimes. But here's the thing. I know what the data and statistics are concerning hate crimes in America between that specific time period they're talking about of March 2020 and September of 2021. And when you come to the data as provided here by the FBI, and I've showed you this before, in 2020 alone, there were 8,263 hate crimes reported and accounted for, according to the FBI. Out of that number, anti-Black or African-American, 2,871 hate crime incidents occurred to Black folks in America. Out of 8,000, almost 3,000 of those incidences occurred to Black Americans. We were the ones who were victims. Yet anti-Asian violence only accounted for 279, as you can see here, out of 8,000. So where is that inflated 10,000 number coming from? Well, we're going to get into that right now. But once again, before we jump right into that, for those of you who are still watching, if you're watching the replay and you're still watching, at this point, once again, these live streams, they don't do the numbers that they would normally do if they were uploads. So please make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Please share this video on your social media outlets. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. And also your financial contributions are much appreciated for the work that's done here on this channel. You can contribute via CashApp, that's $tdhiphop. If you're on the live stream right now, you can contribute through the super chat, and you could also join Patreon as well, or you can become a channel member by hitting the join button next to the subscribe button below. And the Patreon link will be pinned in the comment section, and it's also pinned at the top of the live chat as well. So now let's carry on with this information. Okay, so now let's get into where these inflated numbers are coming from. The inflated numbers are coming from here, okay? This is stopaapihate.org. And once again, I want to state this. I am not diminishing any of the claims that are occurring within the community of the AAPI concerning violence. I'm not saying any of this stuff isn't really happening. I'm not saying that they don't deserve the support that they're receiving. That is not what I'm saying. That has never been my message. My message has been clear and consistent throughout the entirety of the last 2 years that my platform has had, a little bit of a following. All I'm saying is if these Democrats that Black folks keep voting blue no matter who for, if they can give an unlimited amount of funds to everybody else, why can't they do it for your community? That's all I'm saying. And one of the ways that they're able to justify this in New York is through these inflated numbers, right? Now, like I showed you earlier, according to the FBI, there are only 279 hate crime incidents. But when you come here to stopaapihate.org and you check out the national report through December 31st of 2021, it states this: from March 19th, 2020 to December 31st, 2021, a total of 10,905 hate incidents against Asian American and Pacific Islander persons were reported to Stop AAPI Hate. Of the hate incidents reflected in this report, 4,632 occurred in 2020 and 6,723 occurred in 2021. Now, what were these incidents that were reported not to the FBI, right? Not official documented FBI reported, but reports that were reported to this organization that's apparently keeping track of these incidences. Well, of that 10,000, as you can see right here, 63% of hate incidences were verbal harassment. Verbal harassment, 63%, continues to make up the biggest share of total incidents reported. So not actual hate crimes. No, actual hate crimes and acts of violence aren't making up the majority of these incidences that they're reporting. Verbal harassment, you not liking the way somebody spoke to you. That's what that is. 63% of that 10,000 is you feeling a kind of way because I didn't like the way you talked to me. And I feel like you talked to me that way because I'm AAPI. You see? That's what's going on here. That's how these numbers are so inflated. Physical assault accounted for 16%, comprised the second largest category of total reported incidents, followed by the deliberate avoidance of AAPIs. So physical assault accounted for 16.2%, comprised the second largest category of total reported incidents, and that's followed by deliberate avoidance of AAPIs, 16.1%. Okay, so 16% is physical assault. All right, now 16% of that 10,000 number, because I did the math earlier, unless I'm mistaken, which I don't believe that I am because I used Google, and Google knows everything, right? But 16% of that large 10,000 number is 1,700, if I'm not mistaken, right? So apparently there were 1,700 assaults that occurred within that time frame. But that isn't reflected in the FBI data, because according to the FBI data, it's only 279. Now, excuse me. Now, I understand that not all incidences are documented and reported through the police, right? So once again, I'm not saying that these numbers are fake, but what I am saying is that all this stuff is inflated because they're reporting the incidences not to the police and to the proper authorities, but they're reporting it to this organization that's putting all this information out that has not been officially verified by the proper authorities. They're putting this information out as the gospel, as law. No, these are the numbers, and that's it. And another 16%, as I just stated, is deliberate avoidance. So 63% of that 10,000 number is verbal harassment. I don't like the way you spoke to me. And the other 16% is I don't like the fact that it looks like you're avoiding me. It looks like you don't want to stand next to me. So the overwhelming majority of that inflated 10,000 number is just you simply having your feelings hurt because I don't like what you said. I asked you what time it was, and I don't like how you responded back to me. And when I sat next to you on the bus, you got up and you went to the other seat. Are you kidding me? That's where these numbers are coming from. And to round this portion out, civil rights violations made up 11.5%. So workplace discrimination, refusal of service, being barred from transportation, and housing-related discrimination account for 11.5% of total incidents. Now, I say all that to say this. These are the numbers that are used to justify, right, by New York State, giving the AAPI community, the activist arm of their community, such a large sum of money. between 20 and possibly $30 million. Okay. Also, can you imagine on the flip side if Black folks we started reporting anytime somebody verbally harassed us, we didn't like what they said to us and how they said it, or we felt like we were being deliberately avoided, right? Or also workplace discrimination. These numbers would be in the millions if we were reporting them. They would be in the millions. But in this case here, concerning the AAPI community, it's only 10,000, right? And we all know this concerning the Black community that it would be in the millions, yet and still, you don't receive this type of funding nor this type of help. All you get, like I stated earlier, is jail. That's it. Longer prison sentences, stop and frisk, and all that other good stuff. Funding of the police. Now, the next portion that I want to get into right now is the infrastructure that's being built up in the AAPI community by way of New York State again. They're putting up the money and the funding in order for the AAPI community to build up their community and make it look just more beautiful, significantly nicer than what it may already look like. As you can see here, Governor Hochul announces Chinatown as Governor Hochul announces Chinatown as $20 million New York City region winner of 5th round downtown revitalization initiatives. Before I get too deep into this, I want people to understand everything that I've mentioned to you so far concerning this, $40 to $50 million. This is all as I've been preaching for quite some time now. What have I been preaching for quite some time now? For a little bit over a year now. Local politics. This is all local politics that you're seeing happening here. None of what I've read to you concerning these millions and millions of dollars have anything to do with Biden, Kamala Harris, or anything of that nature. All of this money is funded through the state of New York or the city of New York. It's all local politics. This is why you got to take local politics seriously. Okay. So now let's jump back into this article over here, and then we're going to wrap this up pretty soon. All right. Give me just a second. I need to take another sip of this coconut water. My throat is a little dry. Okay, now let's carry on. Now, I'm not going to read this article here because I do want to wrap this up. I think we already hit the 30-minute mark, and we pretty much gotten the point of what I'm saying here. But this $20 million that went to that went to Chinatown, right? This is part of an initiative and a revitalization initiative that New York has had for a couple years now, right? This is their way of throwing millions of dollars to communities that they want to see built up, as essentially gentrification is going on throughout the state, right? And throughout the, New York tri-state area, I believe it's called. Because here's the thing. Folks that want to be against what I'm saying right now, they'll watch this video and they'll say, "Oh, well, the downtown revitalization initiative, they didn't just give money this year to the AAPI community. They gave money to communities that have Black folks in it." And I looked into it, and I guess technically they did, right? But not really, because here's one example. Not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, downtown Brooklyn won this $20 million revitalization initiative. But downtown Brooklyn, as we all know, is gentrified. So in the midst of a gentrification process, right, New York State provided downtown Brooklyn with the money to be able to do so, to gentrify and get Black folks up out of there. Also, this same revitalization initiative was handed over to some of the good folks of the South Bronx, as you can see right here, from September 21st, 2017. South Bronx will get $10 million from the state for revitalization efforts. Okay? Sounds good. I've never been to the Bronx, but I've South Bronx, South Bronx. I've heard that in rap songs and all like that my whole life. I know there's a lot of black folks there. I think there's actually more Hispanics there now more than black folks, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it's 50-50. Nonetheless, that's irrelevant because the South Bronx is being gentrified. So that's irrelevant. It's being gentrified. This is a common thread that you're seeing here, right? With this revitalization effort going on by the state, they're consistently giving money to areas that are being gentrified, with the exception of Chinatown. And why Chinatown is the exception is because they're not just giving them the $20 million to build up their infrastructure and to make the city and their portion of town look nicer. But like I showed you earlier, they're also giving money to the activist arm, $20 to $30 million worth of money, in order to build up the people within their community. They're not looking to move anybody out. They're looking to strengthen their community. And New York State is in direct financial support of that. Okay. And I think we also have this as well. If I remember correctly, in Jamaica, Queens, they won as well. I believe something like $20 million, if I'm not mistaken, right? $20 million. Well, Jamaica, Queens, for those of you who don't know, is also being gentrified. This is what's going on, right? Downtown Jamaica at risk of gentrification. This is something that was written about in 2016. Where all my New York folks at? Am I getting something wrong? All my people in New York, am I getting something wrong? Is downtown Brooklyn not gentrified? Is the South Bronx not currently getting gentrified? Is downtown Jamaica, Queens, is downtown Jamaica, is it not getting gentrified? Do I have something wrong? Or is the evidence clear and apparent that New York State Governor, what's her name, Kathy Hochul, and Mayor Eric Adams is out here funding all these gentrification efforts throughout the New York tri-state area, while once again, and in conclusion, for black folks, got jail. Eric Adams being the Biden of Brooklyn. You're going to get stop and frisk, right? And you also get some hip hop lectures from Mayor Eric Adams. Sit down and talk to some rappers just to not make it look so bad. All right. Don't want to make it look too ugly. We don't want to make it look too obvious that we're providing all this funding to move black folks out and to strengthen other groups up. We don't want to make it look too bad. So, I'll have a seat and I'll talk with a couple of rappers, I'll talk with Mayno right here. I'll have a conversation with Mayno. We can tape it and we can take pictures afterwards. Right? So that's what you have going on over there in New York. That's the situation that's happening right now. And like I said, in closing, all of this money is in a matter of 6 months. It started in November. We're only in what? May. We're in May now. In a 6-month period, they've received $40 to $50 million to build up their community and build up their people. Could you imagine if this was the kind of funding that was actually given? Concentrated funding, right? Very concentrated, targeted funding to the south side of Chicago that everybody loves to look at come holiday season and go, oh, what about Chicago? What about Chicago? Black on black crime in Chicago. Could you imagine if that was the kind of targeted funding given to grassroots organization in Chicago to build up the people over there? Because one of the many lies and misconceptions of Chicago, and I did a video about this. I wish I had it pulled up, but I did a video about this about over a year ago. One of the biggest lies about Chicago is that the people of Chicago and the brothers and sisters of Chicago, they're not holding one another accountable. Black people aren't holding each other accountable in Chicago to stop all these murders and to stop all these shootings. That is a lie, okay? That is a lie from the pit of hell, straight from the devil's mouth. That's a lie. There are so many organizations. There are so many brothers. And I have to emphasize on the brothers because, look, I'm not taking anything away from black women. I'm not taking anything away from the sisters that do all the great activist work that they do within the community all throughout the country. I'm not taking anything away from them. They deserve all the props, all the praise. all the benefits, all the rewards that come with it. But as we all can see, and what we've seen throughout the last year or two, there's been a very strong effort to erase Black men from the equation when talking about when we're talking about things related to activism and community organizing and just taking hold of our community. There's a very deliberate effort to smear and erase us out. When in Chicago, that's far from the case. There are so many brothers running these little organizations, doing everything that they can to put an end to the shootings and the violence and the murders that goes on there. They're doing everything they can, but they don't have the funding. Could you imagine if they received the funding to the same degree that AAPI, the AAPI community, is receiving funding in New York? Could you imagine what they would be able to do with that kind of money to build their people up in Chicago, in the South Side, to build up the youth in the South Side, to be able to get brothers off the streets and off the dumb stuff on the South Side? Could you imagine what they'd be able to do if they had the funding? But you don't get the funding, you get jail. That's the common theme. You get jail, more prison time, more police. Everybody else gets funding. Everybody else gets money. So with all that being said, either what I'm saying is the truth or it isn't the truth. Either I'm telling a lie or I'm not. The facts show that everything that I've said thus far and that I presented to you is the truth. So then the question is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to keep voting blue no matter who? Are we going to just keep on doing that over and over again? Right? Or are we going to make it a point to build up our own grassroots politicians and, most importantly, take over local politics? Because all this, like I said earlier in the video, is happening locally. All these millions of dollars that you see happening in New York, going to the AAPI community, this kind of stuff is happening all throughout the country in every major city, right? Everybody else gets the funding they need except for you. That's why you got to take over local politics in your area to make sure that you're in control of where that funding is going and that it's concentrated and targeted in the areas that need it the most, like in the example that I gave concerning the South Side of Chicago. If we're not doing that, if we're not building up our own politicians, you feel me? And if we're not taking over local politics, then I don't know what we're doing here other than just having fun online. These things have to bleed out into the real world, and there are a lot of people doing great things already in the real world. So I don't want to disparage anybody like that people aren't doing anything, because I've spoken on it before. There's a lot of brothers doing a lot of great things, right? But the most important thing, and I believe the next step is, and I'm going to say this one last time, is the local politics. Because now, when you're in these positions of city councils and, the state house representatives and state senate and all that kind of stuff, when you get up in these positions, and you being aware of the organizations, the genuine grassroots organizations that exist in your community, you can take the same inflated statistics like the AAPI community did and say, hey, look at all this stuff happening to Black folks. You know what we're going to do? We're going to give $20 million to organizations that are assisting in fighting crime and keeping our boys off the street on the South Side of Chicago. And you're giving it directly to the organizations that are legitimately grassroots organizations that needed the most, not these fake fugazi organizations like we saw, I believe, when Jay-Z was working with the NFL, and the NFL they were handing out money to different organizations, and there was some fugazi organization that was ran by a white woman where she was running around here parading Black men that cut their dreadlocks off, and they would cut their, you guys remember that? They would cut their dreadlocks off and they would hold them up in the camera and take a picture. That was a way of emasculating them. Okay, cutting your dreadlocks off have nothing to do with the situation that these Black boys are dealing with on the South Side of Chicago. It has nothing to do with nothing. Dreadlocks is not the issue. It's not the problem. But when you have these fugazi organizations that are not of the people that are operating in our communities, that's the type of silly stuff you get, right? You get these liberal Caucasian women running organizations, cutting the dreadlocks off of Black boys, holding it up in front of a camera, taking a picture of it. And apparently this is what's going to put us where we need to be. We all know that's not the case. But anyways, I've gone on for too long already. It's been 44 minutes. You all get the point of what I'm making here. So with all that being said, that does it for today's video. I thank you all for joining me today. Hopefully this live stream was informative to you. Please make sure you hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Share this on your social media platforms, and also show your financial contribution support as well. You can do so via Super Chat. You can do so via Cash App, that's $TD-HIPHOP. You could also do so by joining Patreon, and you could also do so by hitting the join button down below next to the subscribe button. So thank you all for your time, and until the next video, peace.